Today we are joined by Bob Chiarito. He is a journalist and a lifelong Chicagoan, which means for those of you who aren't in the market, you're out of market listening to this, he might sound as though he has an accent.
Bob is a guy who I have admired for a long time. I would see he's one of the most prolific freelance writers in this town. And freelance writing, having done it for about 10 years of my lengthy career, is a tough way to go. Bob, you are from one of the things that distinguishes your work. Not only is it good writing, but you have a real sense of story. You are curious, but you also find stories that are, like 5 months before they're going to wind up in the Main Street press.
He went to Columbia College in Chicago, and he has worked for numerous publications as a reporter. The Tribune, Reuters, the New York Times, the Daily Herald, DNA Info, and Vice.
We particularly love Chicago, and that's apropos because our guest today is one of Chicago's finest reporters, a real shoe leather guy. You've seen the name because he not only writes for the Chicago Tribune, he writes a blog called the Chicago Ambassador. He writes for Reuters. You name it, Chicago Magazine, he writes for them. Bob Chiarito, Robert Chiarito is with us. Hey, buddy.
Welcome, Bob.
Hi, guys.
Robert Chiarito of Block Club Chicago.
Bob Chiarito, one of our crime reporters in town.
Creator and managing editor of the Chicago Ambassador, Bob Chiarito.
Robert Chiarito is a terrific freelance reporter. He writes for the New York Times, the Chicago Sun-Times, Reuters, and Block Club Chicago, and a returning expert here on Double D's.
And on Block Club Chicago, I see one man's byline across a lot of locally skewing stories about COVID-19. His name is Bob Chiarito, Robert Chiarito.
You're listening, ladies and gentlemen, to a true writer.
Chaos, violence, and fear. That's how Chicago woke up this morning. Reporter Bob Chiarito was on the scene covering the events for Block Club Chicago. You were there. Holy crap. I mean, I was looking at what you were putting on Twitter. Live video, gunshots in the background. Can you walk us through your morning in Chicago?
Rick Kogan called you an old-fashioned shoe leather reporter and one of the best in town because you pound the pavement.
He says Ivy Davis's vulnerability is what attracted him to the story.
She was a young woman who basically had no power and no money and was a voiceless person, and I felt like she had a story that was worth telling. It sounded like maybe she got a raw deal.
He might sound as though he has an accent.
You're listening, ladies and gentlemen, to a true writer.
She had a story that was worth telling. It sounded like maybe she got a raw deal.
Bob Chiarito is at Block Club, from Block Club Chicago, giving us a little update on what's going on out there. Hey, Bob.
That's according to Bob Chiarito. He is a reporter for Block Club Chicago. He writes for a lot of different local outlets, but you can read this story at blockclubchicago.org. He is here with us on Outside the Loop today. Bob, nice to talk to you. Welcome to the show.
Robert, thanks for your time. I know you've covered this case extensively. What's the mood of the city this afternoon?
We've been watching the footage over the last few nights, tonight included, about the protest, the riots, the combination of both of those things. One man who was on the street for all of it was Bob Chiarito.
And this is something I don't think journalists get enough credit for. I mean, you're walking into danger. There's that commitment. I don't think people, the true dyed-in-the-wool, for-real journalists I know, I mean, you folks are committed. You're committed to telling the truth and sharing the story and getting to the story. You're doing that proverbial walk to the fire instead of away from the fire. You're putting yourself in harm's way for the public's information. It's a higher calling in some respects.
You said, well, what's your favorite story? And like a true writer, you said, well, sometimes I think my favorite story is my next story.
It's certainly a good time to be a journalist, and lots to keep you.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Bob Chiarito, thank you for the work you do. I've been keeping tabs on everything you're doing in Block Club Chicago and everywhere else. Like I said, you're the guy who runs toward the fire, and we benefit from it. We learn from it. So thank you for the work that you do.